Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Always on CX and EX presented by AudioCodes Voca. Here we talk about customer experience, employee experience, and everything in between. In this episode, we'll be diving into why you should consider consolidating your unified communications and contact center. Today we have Peter Broeckx with us, tuning in from Belgium. Peter is one of our most experienced contact center experts focused on the EMEA market. But Peter, I'm not going to steal your thunder. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do here at AudioCodes.
Thanks, Josh. My name is Peter Broeckx. Been with AudioCodes now for a little more than 6 years. I'm responsible for the contact center solutions here in EMEA. So working closely with the contact center vendors, the partners, and our end customers. Been in this industry for way too long. As you can see in the gray hair in my beard. Done this, started out early 2000s at HP Services, where I was doing the Cisco, then joined Avaya, where I did the contact centers at Avaya, Oracle, and Acme Packets, and now for the last 6 years at AudioCodes.
Awesome, Peter. Well, I think you're the perfect person for this session of Always on CX and EX. So we hear a lot about consolidating your UC and CC. Maybe you can give that to us in like layman's terms. What does that mean exactly, and what are some of the key benefits that come from the consolidation there?
Well, great question to start. And it's a topic I talk about literally every day with customers. If you ask me, it's all about consolidating that UC and contact center. Means about combining the different communication channels into, let's call it, one seamless platform that includes voice, video, messaging, emails, and others. And it's about integrating front office and back office. So you've got a call coming into the contact center. Agents need support from someone else in the company and needs to reach out. And that can be someone from finance, it can be someone from IT, doesn't really matter. But if you don't have this integration between your contact center and your UC platform, it's going to be very hard for that agent to, one, get support from someone else inside of the company and do that in a manner that's actually going to help your customer. So by integrating UC and CC, it's kind of like every Teams users or every Teams user actually becomes a potential agent. And by doing this, you can provide a more cohesive experience for both your customers and your agents, regardless of the communication channel that they use to reach out to you.
You know, front office, back office. You have agents who can tie into back office experts if they don't have the exact answer to the question that's coming from the customer. You know, they can easily reach out to someone on Teams on the same platform, not have to go to another platform, see their presence, are they available, and bring them into a call or get their expert advice in answering that question that's there. And that leads to, you know, a greater experience for the customer. It's quicker. It's, you know, that it's accurate versus, you know, sometimes waiting on hold and having to have an agent reach out via another platform that can take much longer, and it's not as smooth of a process. All right, Peter, so how can consolidating these solutions help improve customer service and maybe enhance the overall customer experience?
Well, I think it's clear that when a customer reaches out to you, typically today, they will have already done some research. They've looked on the website, they've looked on a mobile app, they maybe Googled with the question, and if they're reaching out to you, it's because they've not found the solution to their problem or the answer to their question themselves. So when they reach out to you, they really need an answer. So if you're a customer, you call the contact center, you talk to the agent. If the agent does not know the answer, you're expecting him or her to actually get that information from other people within the organization. So if you have an integrated solution for UC and CC, it's easy for your agent to actually go and fetch someone from the rest of the organization, reach out to him, see, okay, I've got this question, who could potentially help? It's a question on finance. Let me see who from finance is available. So you can actually see who from finance is at that given point in time available to answer your question. You can reach out to them, potentially even bring them in the call to help resolve that question from your customer. Because, as I said, if he's reaching out, it's because he wants his answer, and his answer now. So being able to have this integration between your front office and your back office, getting knowledge and experience and answers from the rest of the organization, that makes a huge difference for your end customer. And it also improves, let's call it the agent productivity, because your agent is actually going to hit on some of these key contact center metrics, this first call resolution, for example. If you look at Net Promoter Score, it's definitely going to increase because your customer called, got the answer on the first call because the agent was able to search and get that information from someone else in the organization. He made it a seamless experience for that end customer. So the end customer is going to be happy. If you ask him how the service was, he's going to give you like 9 or 10. So it's going to really improve your Net Promoter Score. And from a business perspective, it's also going to improve. It's going to give you more insights and better analytics because you know what's being asked, who needs to answer, and you can actually provide better guidance to your agents afterwards. If a lot of the questions that come in have to go to someone in the background, in the back office, to finance, IT, or whatever, you know that there's a gap in potentially education of your agents or information that they lack. So it gives you the ability to improve on your processes as well. And then especially these days when we talk about recession, etc., there's a thing about cost savings, of course. It's you just have that one call that comes in. You don't have to call again to the customer, have 3 times the interaction between your agent and your customer. So it's a lot of great things that you can achieve by integrating UC and CC correctly.
I liked the point that you hit on around understanding how often is an agent reaching out to the back office to get insight on a question that they receive, and then using that information to determine if your agents need more education on a specific topic. That's a really smart way to do it because, okay, we see, we have 100 calls and 50% of them are going to the back office. That's half of them. All right, maybe who are those agents, or can we cluster a group of topics together and then do a workshop for our agents focused on that topic and help educate them? That way it offloads maybe the time to resolution of having to reach out to the back office, rather giving that information and making your agents more knowledgeable on it. And then you can even take the answers that came from the back office that were provided to the agent and use those as, answers to the typical questions, kind of like setting up an FAQ for an agent on a specific topic that they can easily refer to on their own.
I fully agree. And even more, it also sometimes it shows that an agent may not have all the information he needs to answer a question. And that can be because some kind of integration was not done properly. For example, basic example, if you've got a lot of calls coming in about invoices, but your agent can't see the actual invoice of a customer because there's not an integration between what finance sends out and what the agent can see in a customer file, then there's a problem. And it's maybe an easy solution is to say, okay, let's make sure that there's an integration between my agent interface and that finance system so that the agent has got all that information. And then do let's call it a permanent solution rather than the agent having to go back each and every time to finance to get this kind of information on the call.
So, Peter, what are some of the biggest challenges that organizations typically face when it comes to maybe consolidating these technologies and how they can be overcome?
Well, if you want to try and consolidate UC and CC, this can be a pretty complex process that requires some really careful planning and execution. And if you look at the challenges enterprises face when trying to do so, it's about integration. You try to integrate two different communication systems, two different technologies, and that can be challenging. There can be compatibility issues, there can be delays. Typically, it results in higher costs because you've got two different systems that don't talk to each other, and you actually are trying to make them talk to each other. So this integration effort can be challenging. And this integration challenge actually also requires quite a lot of expertise to develop, deploy, and afterwards maintain this integration as well, which actually comes then to a third topic, and that relates to cost. Because if it's complex to integrate, if it's hard to do it and to maintain it, it's typically also going to mean a higher cost. So from an integration perspective, complex, not easy, and costly. And if we then look at the user, from a user perspective, if I'm an agent and I need to use different systems that are not really natively integrated, it can be challenging to use, and it can actually hurt your user adoption, and you'll get resistance from your users and pushback. And then, and especially in Europe, this is typically always a topic: security. When you start to integrate two different communication channels, the risk of security issues, breaches, are always there, especially when it relates to where data is stored, how it's used, how it's transmitted over or across multiple platforms. It's a topic. And then, of course, scalability. That's another topic. If you've got two different platforms that you try to integrate, scaling them, upgrading them, it's always going to be a hard thing to do and to maintain properly. So if you work with two different platforms, it's a challenge. And therefore, how do you overcome this? Well, typically, my best possible answer would be make sure you've got something that's natively integrated, because that will actually overcome all of the topics that I just mentioned. There is not going to be any integration effort because it's natively there. There is no need for specific expertise on IT. There is not going to be additional effort to maintain it. From a cost perspective, well, there is no integration cost, but it is because it's natively there. And from a user perspective, because you can use one single interface or one single platform or an integrated platform, from a user, it's going to be easier to learn how to use it. It's going to be much easier to adopt, and you'll avoid getting pushback from your customers. And then security-wise, well, because it's natively integrated, that ticks the box as well. And typically, from a scalability perspective, you don't, and a maintenance perspective, because it's a natively integrated system, you avoid having problems with upgrading one and then having to upgrade the other. It doesn't work anymore. You need to redo the work. How do you scale if one goes up and then the other doesn't? You all avoid this by having something that's natively integrated and that works really well together, both on UC and CC.
That was really good, Peter. There's two things that you hit on that I think were really important, and that's having the user be able to ramp up and use the system quickly. And when you have something that's native, maybe for, typically like Microsoft Teams is a nice thing to consolidate your contact center with. You have users who are already using Microsoft Teams for all of their internal communication. And if they can ramp up on that quickly, especially, we've been seeing a lot of turnover in the agent space in the contact center. And so if you can have an agent ramped up on the system quickly and being able to, do what they do best and solve problems for customers quicker, that's better for you as a contact center administrator. Now, passing over to you also hit on security. Again, if you have something that integrates with like Microsoft Teams, you have that Microsoft quality, security quality, media quality, calling infrastructure. And that's something that you can trust and, can rely on and be comfortable with. You don't have to stay up at night wondering if there's any security issues because, you can trust Microsoft.
Yeah, well, and then when you talk about this user experience, and then, we typically refer to employee experience these days when we talk about it. I typically refer to my kids. I've got a 6 and an 8-year-old. So they're on their iPads, they're on Roblox, they're looking at a game. If they can't figure out how it works within the first 30 seconds, they'll just drop it. And they won't come back to it afterwards anymore. Even if one of their friends says, hey, this is a great game, they'll go like, I tried it, don't like it, forget about it. And the same you have with your users, with your employees. You just want to give them an easy-to-use platform that's almost intuitive to use. And if you're, as a user, you've been working with Microsoft Teams, and you can provide them a contact center solution that's natively integrated there, it's going to hugely impact and positively impact the user adoption. And to be honest, a happy employee performs better, stays longer. So this is actually what you want to have.
That's the thing. Like, there's so much competition in games, in the tech space, everywhere, that if you don't have a good experience for the user and they can ramp up and use whatever product or service quickly, it's on to the next one. Because there's a competitor out there that can meet the needs of the customer. Awesome, Peter. So we talked a little bit about, what are some of the challenges that come with the consolidation and how those challenges can be overcome. Now, what are some factors that companies should consider when choosing a vendor solution for their consolidated, unified communications and contact center needs?
Well, if you want to overcome these challenges, as an organization, you can take several steps, right? Typically starting with a thorough assessment of your existing communication systems and identify where you could potentially use some consolidation. It's about selecting a vendor that can provide these kind of integrated solutions that are scalable, that can do this, and make sure that you also look at it from an employee perspective, so that you can make sure that they can receive adequate training, the right support, so that you can actually get the right user adoption that you're looking for. And for example, if you as an organization have made the decision that from a collaboration perspective, you decide to go for Teams and that you will roll out Teams throughout your organization, then it does make sense to see if those other requirements related to contact center or customer experience can actually be met with Teams, or a solution that integrates natively with Teams, so that you don't have to have different platforms next to each other, or that you don't have to undergo that difficult and complex integration, and that you don't have to train your employees again, because it's just going to be, well, you've just started using Teams. you're comfortable with this. Now we're going to give you something additional on top of Teams or within Teams to do your job even better. Perfect. And one of the other topics is, and we discussed about it before already, it's about analyzing what happens, right? And reviewing the integration and see if you can make any optimization between these two organizations. And I think it's more about choosing the right vendor that can provide these kind of integrated solutions, rather than trying to build something yourself.
Peter, we talked about this a little earlier in a previous question, but how can companies ensure their employees are properly trained and equipped to use the consolidated solution effectively?
Well, there are several steps that you can take as a company, right? I think you would always start with some kind of a needs analysis, where you see where people are today, what kind of skills they have, what would they need to use that new solution, and see if you can identify knowledge gaps, and then start working on training requirements. And that would then go into immediately the second step. It's about providing training. Once you've got this consolidated solution in place, you want to make sure that you provide the right training to the people, right? And that's going to be typically upfront. You will train to people about, let's say, the new solution, the new process, and how to work. And the first day or the first days that it's actually being used, or it goes into production, and then your employees stop using it in production, you want to make sure that someone is there to help them out and assist them if they've got questions. Or if they, for whatever reason, they just need to have someone there to make sure they feel comfortable and that they can reach out to just in case. So it's about this needs analysis, and based on that analysis, the training. But it doesn't stop there. You want to make sure that you provide also ongoing support, because if it's something new for your users, you want to make sure that they keep on using it, and by providing this ongoing support, you make sure that they use it correctly, and it will also drive the adoption of the right methodology, the right working process. And as a last thing, I would say, after the analysis, the training, the ongoing support, and then the driving of the adoption would be monitoring how they're using it, if they're using it correctly, and see if there are still gaps, because it might be that with new people coming in, you may need to change your training requirements or the way how you support them in their daily work. So if you take these steps, I think you're on the right track, and you'll get your employees properly trained. You'll make sure they're happy, and as I said before, happy employees are going to perform better. They're going to stay longer, and that's going to be resulting in some good stuff for the company as well.
Yes, I can completely agree with that, because training is a continual process. There's never been a professional athlete in the world who trained one time and then they were good for the rest of their professional career. It's continuous to train every day. Maybe for agents, it's not an everyday thing, but you're training consistently, and to become better at your job, better at the systems and processes that you're using. You have new people on your team who need to be trained. Maybe that's shadowing an agent who uses the solution really well, and it makes them really effective at their job, because those first couple of days in a role and getting up to speed on how to use the tools that are available to you, and if you can get up to speed and use them correctly very quickly, you can be better at your job earlier on and be more efficient as well. Okay, Peter. So, I want to talk a little bit about measuring success of this consolidation. So, how would a company measure the success or ROI of unified communications and contact center consolidation?
Well, I think there are multiple ways to measure, right? But the most important measure would be your customer satisfaction, because that's what it's all about. So you want to see how well this helps the customer. So you can see by, for example, using surveys, feedback forms. You can monitor social media and see how you perform as a company towards your customer satisfaction. Because if you've got this integrated solution, you should be able to help your customer better, faster, and easier. And that should reflect in how they rate you as a company on doing business with and getting service from. So check your customer satisfaction, have a survey, add feedback forms, monitor your social media, and it will give you a first insight in how well you're performing and whether that new consolidated platform actually helps. And that's one. Two, other important metric is your agent productivity. So this consolidated platform should help your agent become more efficient. If he gets a call and he can get feedback or input from his colleagues in the back office, get information, get the right input, bring that to the customer, he should be able to work better, faster, more efficient. And you'll see that in, for example, first call resolution. So if your agent can actually get the issue resolved in one call, perfect. You don't want to see these 2-3 calls to solve an issue, because that typically means that something's going wrong inside your company. So agent productivity is the second one. Third one should be about adoption rates. If you see people are really using this integrated platform, it shows it's helping them, and that typically it will also then reflect in that productivity and that customer satisfaction that we talked about before. And then business outcomes. I just mentioned first call resolution, but you will also see improvements in average handle times. You will see improvements in net promoter score by using these integrated platforms. And then maybe a last topic, but nonetheless also very important, is about cost savings. It should reduce the costs in terms of licensing, maybe hardware, if people are still considering on-premise hardware. It should reduce costs on IT resources, labor costs, maintenance, you name it. So there are a number of topics that you can monitor. But I think most important, as I mentioned in the beginning, is the customer satisfaction and your agent productivity. And then, of course, the business outcome that should show you the ROI of your integrated solution.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Your expert opinion on this was perfect.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It was a pleasure. Looking forward for the next invite.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have you again. So that's a wrap for this episode of Always On CX and EX. Again, this is where we talk about customer experience, employee experience, and everything in between. If you're watching, have any questions or any future topics that you would like to see covered, feel free to leave those in the comment box below. Myself or Peter will be happy to answer. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.